everyone.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jamie Licauco again, broadcasting live from Tahanan Foundation. Ano ba ng foundation? Can you erase that? No, I used to work with Tahanan Foundation. I stay in Tahanan Village in Paranaque. Anyway, we're late for our broadcast this afternoon, but better late than never, as they said. Our topic today, which I want to discuss with you, is the very controversial topic called the faith healers of the Philippines and their procedure of healing called psychic surgery, which is very controversial. And a lot of people have said that it is nonsense, it's trickery, it doesn't exist, and all that, all deception and pure magic. We shall examine whether these accusations are true. In the mid-70s, the first subject in psychic phenomena that I investigated and studied very thoroughly are the faith healers of the Philippines. Because I wanted to find out if the rumors are true, that these people can operate with their bare hands, can open up the body, can make incision in the body, and then take out diseased tissues and close the incision without any trace of the wound or incision, and without pain. This seems quite unbelievable. And my skeptical mind was saying also this is nonsense. So I wanted to find out where was the trick. And I would go to a healer and even examine his hands and look under the table and see whether he's hiding anything. And throughout so many years of my research in this, I didn't find any. I didn't find any was hiding something in their hands. And so I've written so many books about the healers. The first thing I wrote about was healing in general. A pamphlet called Healing Without Medicine, which I don't have now. And then later, when I started the faith healers, I will show you some of the books I have written. First, a practical guide to Philippine healers. Yes. And then Born to Heal on Alex Orbido. By the way, he died a year ago only. Too bad. One of the most famous healers we have, faith healers. And then here is a book also about him. And another very famous healer is Jun Labo. I wrote a whole book about Jun Labo. And then a very thick book, The Magicians of God, where I discuss several healers. And I revised this book later on and called it The Amazing Stories of Philippine Psychic Surgeons. This is the revised edition of The Magicians of God, because the Magicians of God contain other kinds of healers that are not psychic surgeons. So I compiled only those that are psychic surgeons and came up with this book. Unfortunately, most of these books are no longer available. They are out of stock and out of print. And I don't think that they're going to be printed again by my publisher, Anvil Publishing. So for those who bought the copy of this book, you're lucky, because this has become a collector's item. And in fact, I found out several years ago, that Amazon.com is selling it for about more than $100. This Magicians of God. So it's quite expensive, and it's no longer available in the Philippines. Maybe you can still find this book at the National Bookstore, but you'll be lucky. If you see this, better grab it. Okay. Oh, faith healing. What are they? Who are the faith healers? What kind of people or persons are they? I think one of the most important things I wanted to say is that faith healing in the Philippines as a practice really began as a spiritual practice. It's a spiritual how to ritual, part of a religion. And this is something that most people do not realize, no? That it has a spiritual or religious origin. Almost all the faith healers and psychic surgeons that I have investigated and interviewed, and those that I've heard about, were once members or began as members of a Christian Spiritist group in the Philippines called the Unión Espiritista Cristiana de Filipinas. No, may pagkamahaba yung pangalan nila. Their headquarters in Kangkong, Barrio Kangkong, in Quezon City, I think, or Bulacan, somewhere in that area. It's a spiritist group, and they learn faith healing, magnetic healing, psychic healing, and psychic surgery from this organization. They are mediums. They are spirit mediums. They heal by going into trance, and then obtaining the help of the spirit in doing the healing. So this is a religious activity. It's part of their service during Sundays. They go into trance and they commune with the spirit and get messages from the spirit, and they do healing. And most of these people become magnetic healers, or what you call this, laying on of hands. They learn first how to go into trance, then laying on of hands and other, sometimes herbal is medicine also as applied to patients. And only very few become psychic surgeons. And they tell me that the psychic surgery is, you cannot choose to be one, you're chosen. So out of 100 or 1,000 devotees or followers of Spiritism here, only very few will become psychic surgeons. And this become very controversial because how can you open the body with your bare hands, make incision, take out these tissues, and then close them, and then you don't see anything? There's no sign. What I tell you, I've seen thousands and thousands of them, maybe about 30 healers I have examined. And at least, I cannot say that all of them are genuine because I have not really investigated all or did laboratory analysis of them or sent them to laboratories. But I have at least three cases with laboratory proofs. One, my prostate gland, which was before I went to an ultrasound, had it ultrasound enlarged. After the operation, I went back to the ultrasound doctor, a radiologist, and I have the results and says it's completely gone. I mean, it's normal. There is an X-ray of broken, my sister-in-law had broken arm, and there was a certain splinter in the elbow, and she could not, after it was plaster cast, she could not move this hand properly. Brought her to Labo, did the operation, and now she can move this. When an X-ray was taken, it showed that the bone that was out of place were in place. How he did it, I do not know, but I was there during the operation. And the third is lymph node adenoma. Over here is an infection, very painful, very painful disease. Is an infection, lymph node adenoma, which was healed by Alex Orbito. And then the specimen was brought by this patient, who's a lawyer, to the laboratory pathology department of UST hospital. And the result came out, it says lymph node adenoma in a germinal state. So we have here at least three cases where we have medical proof of the genuineness or validity of psychic surgery. As I said, I cannot speak for the others. It's possible it's fraudulent, it's possible it's trickery. Yes, I agree with that because we don't know. But I am not the only one who have this proofs. Many serious scientists who have studied these healers, not those who were just trying to debunk them. There are debunkers also in the United States, especially, but in Europe they're very more objective, and we have uh, uh, reports of scientific investigation done. For example, by Schibler, tissues we can take it out, have been examined, and even Norman Shelley of the La Crosse, Wisconsin, and in La Crosse, Wisconsin, a clinic on pain rehabilitation clinic in La Crosse, Wisconsin, examined tissues taken out by Aurelius and proved to be genuine. Alfred Stelter of Germany, Hans Nageli, a psychiatrist from Switzerland, Hiroshi Motoyama of Japan, Dr. Lyle Watson of South Africa, and many others who are serious in studying this with an open mind, without any biases. No, I've been able to prove that the operation is genuine. So the controversy has remained. I have seen the healers do healing here in the Philippines and also abroad. I was with John Labo in many parts of the world. And I was with him in Thailand. I was with him in Japan. And I was with him in the United States, in New York. And also I was with other healers I forgot his name now. This guy who can operate at a distance. No, I was with him in England. No, and Alex Orbito, one of the most popular healers, unfortunately died last year. I was with him in many parts of the world, also in Switzerland, in France, and several other countries, and they can perform this as well. No? I was with another healer in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. I was with him also in England. So I would say I have some of the most outstanding or amazing stories about the healers, and also some of the most amazing photographs, of psychic surgery or what they're doing, how they do this operation. And it's not very clear here, but it's Tony Ekpawa. I have seen him perform amazing feats of, well, almost really magical. That's why people cannot believe this. And the, people go into shock when they first see psychic surgery, because it is it really is so unbelievable. And here, so this is Romy Gutierrez. And then I think this is no, that's not Juan Blanche, but Romy Gutierrez is one of the most powerful healers that I have investigated here. And there is Emilio La Purga, the one I was with in several countries of the world, especially in Argentina, Buenos Aires. Juan Blanche and Marcelino Aswigi can do healing without touching the patient at a distance of about maybe 1 foot away. He can make a gesture of cutting, and there will be a cut on the body of the patient without touching it, and blood will ooze out of it. John Flores, whom I did not never met, also can do the same thing. They're the only two or three, if you include Juan Blanche, who died already, and then Serena Suigi, and then oh, I'm sorry, Emilio La Purga, not Suigi. Emilio La Purga, Juan Blanche, and June Flores are three of the healers who can do operation without touching the patient. And in fact, in England, when he demonstrated, Emilio demonstrated healing, there was this American very famous healer who was there, and an American researcher. I forgot his name again. I'm sorry about it. Who witnessed this, and this American woman healer named Barbara Brennan, who wrote Hands of Healing, saw how Emilio opened up the body of a patient in a distance of about well, no, 1 foot away or 2 feet away from the body. And she told me that when Emilio made a gesture of cutting, she's clairvoyant, she's a psychic. She saw a spark of light emanate from his fingers into the spot in the body of the patient, and blood oozed out of it. So these are only some, but there are many laboratory analysis. So after 20 or 30 years of research into this field, what's my conclusion? My conclusion is that psychic surgery, believe it or not, is real. But I cannot say that all psychic surgery is real. It's possible that some of them are result of trickery, as I said. But the point is, the skeptics, the debunkers, have never looked at the evidence. They keep on talking about it, but they do not really look at the evidence. They have already made up their mind that this is impossible. And therefore, what they're doing is trickery. But there are many things in this world that seem to be impossible, but true. And so if we just open our minds, then we can see more. There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy, according to Shakespeare in Hamlet. And it is true. And Nikola Tesla, one of the greatest geniuses of our century, or the previous century, said, on the day that science studies non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in 1 decade than all the centuries of its existence. That's Nikola Tesla. And science has limited itself to the study of the physical, and you can't blame them, because science was never meant to study supernatural things. As far as the physical phenomenon is concerned, you cannot argue about it. You cannot to improve on the scientific method. It is perfect. It will tell you if something physical is valid or not. But the problem lies when they apply this criteria to non-physical things, that it becomes a problem. They could not explain it. They could not explain what consciousness is. They're still debating on this. They cannot explain whether there is life after death. There's no way they can prove this. They don't even believe in the existence of the mind. They believe in the brain, but not the mind. so we have all of these things. Going back to the faith healers. So how do you explain this? How do we can this be explained? I don't think we can scientifically explain the phenomenon, because there is no science that can explain it, but it exists and it's real. And sometimes you cannot distinguish whether it's real or not, whether it's trickery or not. So you have to rely on laboratory analysis, no, to be able to tell really. But with me, somehow I could tell whether a healer is genuine or not, a faith healer, because of intimacy and with them, and intimate knowledge of what they were doing. They cannot do this without going to trance. In the beginning of the study of faith healers in the Spiritist Church, they go into a trance, and then the spirit takes over, and then they become awake, but in a trance, and start doing psychic surgery. Later on, they're able to master this trance state so that you don't even notice that they're in a trance and when they do the psychic surgery, but they are in an altered state of consciousness. It cannot be done in our waking consciousness. So this is one big difference that must be pointed out. No? And sometimes you cannot distinguish, because you can even talk to them while they are doing the operation. And on one occasion, this funny thing that happened. I was observing John Labo in Baguio City, and he was being filmed by a French filmmaker doing surgery, and he's chewing a gum at the time. And so I pointed out to him, hey, and I pointed out to him that he was chewing a gum to throw it out. And he realized he was chewing a gum. In other words, he got so used to the trance state that he can do anything, talk to people, even chewing a gum while doing psychic surgery. They couldn't do that at first. So it takes years of training to be able to do that. So despite all of this, the controversy rages, and most of the most more famous healers that we have, unfortunately, are now are now dead. Some of the most famous. Let me give you some of the names of these people in honor of this amazing healers. Like there is a few of them, very few, are still alive. Most of these are dead. We have in Metro Manila, Mary Arcangel, I think is somewhere in Pasay. Paul Bocard is a Frenchman who learned how to do this, already dead. Sister Flor Acacio, who is still alive, but is no longer healing in Makati. Perfecto Emuslan, who's from Baguio, no, he's in San Andres, Bukid. Virgilio Gutierrez of Quezon City. Marcelino Hariar, here at Pasig. Ruben Lenon, who is now retired. Uh, there is Alex Orbito and brothers Marcos, Alex, and I think John Orbito. Then there's Lori Tylo, still alive. Edwin Akmawa, well, no, controversial, very controversial. In Pangasinan, we have Astor Bravo. In Urdaneta, I think she's still healing. John Labo is still alive at this broadcast in Baguio City. Boy Naguslat, I don't know him. William Nonog is the younger one, I think he's still alive. Placido Palitayan died also, Baguio. And in Cebu City, we have Emilio Lapurga. And there are many others that are not here that I've never met. Having seen all of this, how do I explain psychic surgery? At first, I was explaining it by trying to be scientific, by explaining it, and I would say it's electromagnetism and all that, and like trying to align by the magnetic energy, the magnetic force, no? Or the magnetic field of their hands, and then the subject's body. And by the process called unipolarization, they're able to open up the body on on the atomic or maybe subatomic level and cellular level. And then therefore they can take out tissues, and then when they remove their hands, the cells go to their natural magnetic force, and you don't see anything. I have been operated several times by several of these healers with amazing results. My wife, who cysts on the breast, would remove a lao and never recurred. Uh, I tell you, this thing is so amazing that people don't believe. Now, there's a big difference. There are only two countries in the world where psychic surgery happens or is practiced in such a scale. There are several. In Brazil, there are Brazil and the Philippines are the only two countries where psychic surgery is. But the difference is in Brazil, the psychic surgeons use knives, dull knives, that not sharp, sometimes scissors, sometimes even a saw, lagari, no, to open up the body, to cut the body. The Filipinos use only their hands in opening the body, and therefore it is subject to, well, skepticism. Can't believe this can happen, but it happens, and there is proof. So if we can just open our minds, then we can know things beyond the physical. I have been accused of propagating or glamorizing quacks. I have been accused of being credulous or easy to believe something which is not possible. But I have examined this. I know where I'm coming from. The people who are skeptical, never examine. The Philippine health department, the Department of Health, or I think the Filipino Medical Society, issued a statement in 1974, 75, defining faith healing as a fraudulent way of healing. No, the definition said it's fraudulent healing, using trickery. That's how they define it. So the very definition is already out of the question, no, of the validity of it. And they said it's completely fraudulent, not true. I wrote to the head of this society, the medical society, and asked, how did you come to this conclusion that they're complete fakery? Who were the healers that you examined? How was the examination or analysis, investigation done? And how long? And what are really the specific results? I wrote that, I think, 1975 or 76. Up to now, I have not received any reply from the medical community, from the Association of Medical Doctors, replying to this letter. I said I was doing a research. I just want to know. And then there was also somebody who was a priest, who was, we were, I think, in Germany, uh, in Max Planck Institute. And he gave a lecture on the faith healers of the Philippines and said that they're all fraudulent. They're all, this is all nonsense. No, this thing is not true. So I asked him privately, I said, Father, how did you come to this conclusion that these are all fraudulent? And so I have examined them and I investigated them, and they're fake, all of them. I said, may I know, Father, who did you examine? What was your methodology? How long did you examine them? Did you have laboratory proofs and all that? Can you tell me the names of the people, of the faith healers you have examined? And they said, I forgot who they are. He said he forgot the people. What about the results? Do you have it written down? No, he doesn't have it. So I don't think he did any study of this. He just made a conclusion like many people. Or there is a magician, for example, a very famous magician who is only publicity seeker. And he died recently. And this American magician went on television and said, this is how the Filipino healers, very healers, perform psychic surgery. And he prepared one patient, and he prepared a cotton, he prepared a chemical that when you squeeze, it will look like blood. And then he would push his head on the stomach, and then as if manipulating something, and then squeeze the cotton, then came out blood. And said, this is how the faith healers of the Philippines do the so-called psychic surgery or trickery. But you see, this is deceptive. This is what I call unfair, because psychic surgery is not done that way, that they're preparing one patient at a time. See, the healers do this operation in view of the public. They have at least 50 to sometimes 100 patients a day. I have seen this much, about 100 a day. They do it from morning, and they finish healing all these 100 people in the afternoon, late afternoon. And you can see all the blood, all the tissues taken being thrown out in a container later on. In there, how can you produce so much blood? This magician prepared one patient and everything, the cotton, all the chemicals, and he said that's how the psychic surgeons in the Philippines do it. That's not true. It's not true. Well, what can you do? I am in the minority here. People say that I'm credulous. But in 1982, I was called to Malacanang by President Marcos because he really believes in it, actually. And I think the only president who believes in that. And also, I think Fidel Ramos, because Fidel Ramos always in the birthday of Alex Orbito. But I was called, this was a private conversation between me and the president in 1982. And he said, explained to me, I called you here because there are so many people asking me about our faith healers, psychic surgeons in the Philippines. And since I don't know much about the subject, said the president, I have to talk to somebody who knows. And I think it is you. Well, I didn't know that he has read my book on the faith healers and about understanding psychic powers of man. I didn't know that she would listen to me or watch me when I go on television. And I was in Malacanang for the whole day until 8 o'clock or at night in the evening. President Marcos didn't want me to leave. And we were talking mostly about what? About politics, about government? No. We were talking about psychic phenomena, about surgery, psychic surgery, and about paranormal phenomena. And there was one thing that he told me that he could see the ghost of the barber of Quezon walking in Malacanang. This is clairvoyant. He's very psychic. And I referred to him, one or two healers. And there was a Saudi Arabian king who was sick. It was Malacanang. And this healer healed him. And there was also a strong man who's dead already. I think, I don't know whether it's the Middle East also, somewhere there. And who was healed of cancer and was his mother. But these are all hush hush. Nobody knows this. And I never talked about it because the president asked me not to talk about it until he died. And when he died, I began to talk about our conversation, but not before that. I kept my promise to the president that I would keep quiet about it. So these are things that people don't know about. How our healers have helped so many people, not only here but abroad. But the day of studying and observing the healer is over. The golden years of the healers are over. Well, in the 1980s, there were truckloads of tourists coming here to be healed or to be treated by healers. Now, there are very few. And before there were Americans and other in Western countries. Now, Bulgarians, people from Japan and East European countries have been coming, but in trickles, not so many as much as before. So the days of serving the healers, the golden years are long gone. But in closing, I would like to reiterate the fact, or well, yeah, the fact for me is the fact. It's real, but not all are real. I cannot tell you what the others are. I can only vouch for three that I have laboratory proofs. But I have also laboratory proofs from other countries, like Dr. Hiroshi Motoyama, who examined the tissues, and also Lyle Watson, Hans Nageli, Schibler, and at least one American doctor, Norman Shelley, who also did a lot of examination of our healers and said that they are genuine. So that's it. You can believe it or just ignore it. You can say it's all nonsense. That's fine with me. I'm not interested in convincing people that it's real. That's your own lookout. So I'd like to end this with that. There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than I dreamt of in your philosophy, according to William Shakespeare in Hamlet. This is Jimmy Licauco signing off for now. Thank you for watching. Okay.